Ladies and gentlemen, it's 7 o'clock. And with that, Evelyn, roll call, please.
Trustee Wells.
Here.
Trustee Lee.
Here.
Trustee King. Here. Vice President Marquez. Here. President Weekly.
Present. Bienvenidos a todos. Welcome everyone to the public session for the January 14th, 2026 meeting of the Redwood City School Board. Our interpreter will now give instructions for how to access translation.
Bienvenidos a la reunión de la mesa directiva escolar de Redwood City del 21 de enero. Si necesita interpretación en español, por favor llame al 978-990-5137 y marque el código 8377041 y el número de gato. Si asiste a la reunión en persona, solicite un transmisor que se encuentre en la parte posterior de la sala. Gracias.
Just so all participants are aware, at the direction of the board, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared with the public. We generally try to post our meeting videos on YouTube about a day or two after. The board encourages all members of the public to participate and to provide comment on issues of concern regardless of whether or not they're on the agenda. If you are here in person, please fill out a speaker card in the back of the room. You don't have to give your legal name, but if you'd like us to follow up with you, please consider adding contact information. If you're online with Zoom, you can just raise your hand and we'll call on you based on your Zoom name. If you're speaking on a topic on the agenda, you'll be called at the time that that item is being considered. If it's not on the agenda, we will call on you in the public comment portion near the beginning of our meeting. To be fair to all speakers, comment is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise noted. You'll see a countdown clock at the front of the podium. The next item is a report out from closed session. The board met in closed session regarding the real property negotiation for 750 Bradford Street. There is no reportable action. Welcome, everybody. We have an exciting meeting today. One of the most important duties that a school board can discharge is the selection of the superintendent. And I'm excited to let you know that we'll be discussing potentially ratifying a new superintendent's contract today on the agenda. Action item 12.3 might be easy to miss if you were just skimming an agenda, but it's one of the most consequential things that we're going to do this decade. Other than that, we have a lot of first reading of policies to go over. We were going to do a school accountability report card today, but the staff needed a little bit more time. So that's going to be on the docket for the February 4th meeting, just so people know. So today's meeting is going to be a little bit shorter, and February 4th might be a long one. For folks curious about what we are planning on talking about when, make sure to check out the attachment on agenda item 16, which is the 25 to 26 schedule of board agenda items. As a reminder, if you'd like to see something on the agenda for us to discuss, you'll need to get that request to the board president, that's me, and the superintendent at least 10 days in advance of the board meeting. Dr. Baker and I will confer and decide when or if to place it on the agenda. And of course, you are free to write in your thoughts at any time to all of us. Feel free to write to us in Spanish. AI has gotten very good at translation. And now for our student-led Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next up, we are going to be looking for changes to the agenda. I would like to propose we pull 12.1 and 12.2. Staff has asked for additional time for review, and I'd also...
Yeah, and I'll say that while we're dealing with the action items, maybe we could move 12.3 earlier into the agenda. I was going to propose right after public comment and just before number 10, the discussion items, if that works for everyone else.
Okay. Thumbs up. Any other proposed changes to the agenda other than those? All right. Would anyone like to move we approve the agenda with those modifications?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the amended agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. Passes unanimously. Great. So now we have public comment. And I have one speaker card here. All right. And just as an FYI, while it wasn't included in this week's agenda explicitly, I'd like to emphasize an encouragement to hear from our labor union representatives during this public comment period. And you'll see that explicitly annotated in future meetings. With that in mind, I'd like to call to the stand Maria Stockton.
Hi there.
Maria Stockton. I'm a person. Thank you. Maria Stockton, president of Redwood City Chapter 5 CSEA, the classified union. Last week, the board members approved on your consent item the classified seniority list. And I went to work to print it out for myself so I would have it, only to find that actually half of the list was there. The list of employees by position was there, but not the list of employees by name. So if you knew a classified and you wanted to find them, you would have a difficult time in finding them that. So what you're finding is the list you got in your board packet last week, plus the list by names. So I was looking at that, and then I was thinking, you know what? All the board members know classified. And then I thought, no, that's a big assumption. And we all know what assumption does. So I'm giving you this list with a challenge. I would like you to consider of choosing one classified employee at every site that you watch over and go there and meet that person and talk with them for a little while. I know you're busy and you go to sites and talk to administrators and teachers, but I want you to get to know the people you also represent in this district, and I want them to get to know you. And I already heard from one at one board meeting, David, thank you very much. You went to a site and they classified, and they were just ecstatic that you took the time to get to know them. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. Appreciate that. Any online public comment? Seeing any at this time?
No online.
All right. Great. So that ends the public comment period. And with that, now we are moving on to 12.3. Yep. And this is the big one. We are proposing approving a contract to hire our district's next superintendent, Dr. Christian Rubalcaba. Dr. Baker let us all know at the beginning of the school year that he was going to be retiring. I was dreading this day, given the extensive experience Dr. Baker has had with the district and the relationships, knowledge, and passion he has for the district and its kids. This man certainly has earned his retirement, and we hope it's delightful. Let's take a brief moment to honor his service. Now, these are some big shoes to fill. We wanted to find somebody extremely well qualified who had impeccable pedigree, had worked in the classroom as a teacher, had history as an administrator with equivalent scope, someone who could speak the languages of our community fluently, who had shown that they could drive academic achievement in districts with our demographics. And through this, and though that we thought this was a reach, someone already familiar with Redwood City who could likely hit the ground running. We wanted someone who could communicate well, build bridges of trust with all kinds of people, and who was enthusiastic about ensuring great academic outcomes for our students. Knowing me, I was also personally crossing my fingers to find somebody passionate about data-driven transformation. We retained the services of leadership associates to help us run this search and spent countless hours with their team crafting the listing, getting a broad pipeline of applicants, and coming up with a tough but fair set of rubrics to evaluate our candidates. Leadership associates sat down with all parts of the community to hear what folks were hoping to find in a new superintendent. We had folks from all over the country apply. We had a thick binder of all these applicants and their incredible work. It was tough to narrow it down to just 4 finalists, any one of whom would have been a fine pick. Leadership associates did extensive background checks and research on each finalist, ensuring that we could make an eyes wide open choice. We spent a whole day in multi-hour back-to-back interviews grilling each candidate. At the end of that day, we were uniformly impressed with the combination of rigor and enthusiasm of our best candidate. I can't wait for you to meet Dr. Christian Rubalcaba. And David Lee, my fellow trustee David Lee, who was our negotiator, will now read the terms of the contract into the record.
Thank you, President Weekly. So before we entertain a motion to ratify the contract, I am required by Government Code Section 54953, subparagraph C3, to orally report a summary of the recommended compensation. The recommendation is to ratify a contract for the superintendent term beginning in the 2026 to 27 school year with the following financial terms. 1, annual salary of $285,000 with up to 3% per year increases based on performance review. 2, there will be 20 paid days of transition taken between March 1st and June 30th of this year, where Dr. R will be paid his daily rate, and we added this to ensure a seamless transition by offering overlap with Dr. Baker. 3, we'll allow Dr. R to cash out up to 15 days of unused vacation per year. 4, health benefits offered include medical, vision, and dental for the superintendent and dependents equal to those provided to management employees. And if the plan cost is lower than the district's contribution limit, the difference may be paid as compensation. 5, retirement, the district will provide an annuity contract contribution of $1,000 per month, as well as the standard employer contribution to STRS consistent with our current superintendent contract. 6, allowances and reimbursements include a transportation allowance of up to $400 per month and an expense reimbursement of up to $600 per month. And 7, for professional development, the district will cover membership dues for 2 professional organizations and 2 service clubs, along with travel for 2 major conferences per year, with the intention of sharing and bringing back knowledge that is in support of the district's practice, and up to $7,000 for a mentor or executive coach during the first year of the contract. That concludes the summary of compensation.
To discuss this item, would any board member like to move that we ratify the contract? And then second?
I'll move that we ratify the contract.
All right, and with that, we are now in discussion. Does anyone have any comments that they would like to make about the ratification of this contract?
I mean, I can definitely start with some comments. First, I also want to thank you for all the words that you brought up, started the item with President Weekly. I also just wanted to take just a second to honor Dr. Baker because it's 40 years of service to Redwood City School District as a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, no less, a principal, district leader, superintendent. It's really extraordinary. I'm super happy for you. I'm sad for our community because it's a loss, and I'm grateful for your steady leadership. The relationships you've built and the alignment that you've been working on for the last, however many, 10 years as a superintendent. We still have a lot of important work to do left this year. So we're going to do honoring, and I've said this before, we'll do this all at the end of the year because we need to stay focused on all the work that needs to happen this year. And so at the same time, though, I'm really excited about the opportunity that's coming up in our next chapter. And I'm also excited about it. You touched on a little bit about the process of how we got there, but I think it was a good process. I think we really did listen to a lot of the community. There were 13 stakeholder engagements across different groups. And with all the groups had different experiences and different needs. And yeah, there were some consistent themes that came across. People asked for a leader who's bilingual, equity-centered, visible, a strong communicator. And by the way, in the interview, we got a communication packet from Dr. Rubalcaba, which was great. They just want someone that just listens to more than just the loudest voice. The thing that also mattered to me was that feedback wasn't just generic. It wasn't like it was all the same. There was really some unique, interesting pieces that came out. Families at the community forum explicitly said that they want a superintendent who can speak with us without an interpreter. Classified staff asked to be seen. I think Maria was even echoing that again today. And so, they want to have an open door leader who's present with employees and in the community. Students ask for communication in more languages. It's just such a powerful reminder about access and belonging. And principals emphasize the ability to create a shared vision and experience with immersion and multilingual education. And so when I look at Dr. Rubalcaba, I see a leader who reflects those priorities in a real way. It's through your lived experiences and your professional experiences, your bilingual leadership, your deep work in community schools, and your whole child supports. And so I'm really hopeful that he'll be able to pick up from where Dr. Baker has brought us so far. And continue building alignment around a focused number of shared goals and outcomes that show our impact, especially for our multilingual learners, and can communicate that progress in a way that families and staff can really truly see and feel. So tonight, I'm going to be proud to support this ratifying the employment agreement. Thank you for reading the terms into the public record as you needed to. They seem really appropriate for my reading, for the area, for the role, for the responsibilities. And so I will be, with this motion, be very excited to welcome Dr. Rubalcaba to Redwood City School District. Thank you.
As quick point of order, I have received 2 comment cards on this matter. With the board's permission, I'd like to reopen public comment. Yep. All right. And with that, I'd like to call Jennifer Blanco to the stand to discuss this item.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, fellow former colleagues. I am Jennifer Blanco. I'm former trustee for the San Bruno Park School District for about 20 years plus. I'm standing here before you all today as a county commissioner on the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission with my chair, Johanna Rasmussen, who will speak after me. But first of all, I'd like to first speak a little bit on Dr. John Baker. Dr. Baker and I got really close along with Cecilia Marquez, when in 2024, we got all of the Latino superintendents here in our county, which are not many, but now Christian here. Now we've got 3 coming this year. And so we were able to work together on the Latino Leaders Coalition of the Bay Area that we started. And we did a Latino Heritage Month 4-part speaker series. And for our inaugural keynote speaker was La Señora Sylvia Mendez, where I don't know if you all are familiar with the Mendez versus Westminster case back in the 50s, where she was an 8-year-old little girl and her family and other farm workers got together and they filed a discrimination suit against the Westminster School District, which then in turn at the time with the governor at the time decided to, after the law cases, there was 2 of them because they appealed after down in Los Angeles County and then it came up to San Francisco. The governor at the time then decided, with hearing the story and that plight of the families from Westminster School District, that's the reason why all of our school districts in California became desegregated, which, by the way, with former Justice Thurgood Marshall, who was with the NAACP at the time, got involved with the Mendez versus Westminster School District, which a lot of people don't know the story also, is that Thurgood Marshall used the Mendez versus Westminster School District to make his argument before the U.S. Supreme Court. And then here we have the the Brown versus Board of Education, which made all of our schools in our country desegregated. Dr. Baker and I had the honor and the pleasure of moderating that conversation with La Señora Sylvia Mendez. And so I don't know about you, Dr. Baker, but I will always treasure that experience, being able to speak with Señora Mendez, and I appreciate having you sit there alongside me with that experience. So we're conjoined at the hip for that. So congratulations on your 40 years of serving our community here in Redwood City. I just want to say, I think I'm up for my time. I just want to briefly also speak a little about Proud Christian. I've known him for about 4 years. And we got really close just recently. The commission, alongside with CSM and Project Change, we just finished planning and having a very successful countywide conference, delinquency prevention focused conference called Prevention in Action, Schools, Communities, and Youth Voices, and your board president attended as well. Christian was on our planning committee, so I don't know if Christian mentioned the work that he was doing in partnership with the commission, with the JJDPC, but just in case, we have a true leader here that's about to join your board here. And so I can't speak any more highly about Christian. I know he had an amazing leader, Superintendent Diego Ochoa, who was my brother from another mother. But I'm so excited for Redwood City, following Dr. Baker's work. So I look forward to all the great work that Redwood City School District is about to embark on. And we look forward with now knowing that Christian is a partner of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission. So we're looking forward to continue that partnership with Redwood City School District. Thank you for the extra time. I apologize. I had a lot to say. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Next up is
I'll
Joanna
be-
Rasmussen.
Thank you so much. I'll be brief. So I just wanted to come and thank Dr. Baker. I know over the years, I've been a 35-year resident, 3 children in the school district, and I know many times I've reached out and it hasn't been pleasant, but you've always been there to listen, and I'm appreciative of that. I'm also extremely excited that we have Kristen coming on board. When I heard this news, I couldn't have been more happy, more thrilled for our community. And I just want to say thank you for choosing us. We are appreciative of you. Thank you. Thank you.
And I believe we have no further public comment. And so with that, I'd like to return things to board remarks and discussion concerning this item.
I would echo everything that Mike said, but I'd also like to just thank Mike for shepherding us through the process as board president at the time. And thank you, Evelyn, for organizing everything for us so that everything went smoothly. And welcome, Dr. R.
Definitely congratulations, Christian, for choosing Redwood City. We look forward to working with you. Definitely you have some really big shoes to fill. I have always appreciated Dr. Baker for being himself. I've known him for over 20 years and before he even became the superintendent. And what I appreciate about him is that he remained himself all throughout this time. So I look forward to working with you. Mike said it just perfectly. I don't want to add any more words, but again, just look forward to working with you and working with the excellent team because as you might have already heard, we do have a great cabinet and we as a board get along really well. And so we do look forward to all the adventures that we would, move forward with. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any further remarks from the board? Sure.
I'll just be very brief because everyone's already said all the good stuff. But one other thing to just note is I think it's public knowledge. We have not gone through this process before, so this is new to us. And so it was, I'm sure the process, there are things I'm sure could have been even stronger, but I feel like we did a strong process and I think we got the right result, which is the most important. But one other thing is just to add on to all the stuff. A lot of it was also Dr. Baker participating and helping. Like all the community input that we got was to help shape what we think the community needs in a new superintendent was driven by his efforts. And I think that speaks to the general community that we have in Redwood City of this continuing desire to make schools better for our whole community. And so I've only known Dr. Baker for a relatively short period, but it's really obvious to me, even through all our times, that it's always in the back of his head of how do I make the right decision for everyone, for all of our students. It's a hard job, as you know. But I feel very confident. I'm super excited that that's going to continue with our incoming superintendent. Just super optimistic about, and it's not a replacement. It's changing and putting in all the ideas and continuing all the momentum that's already been created. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Have our remarks concluded? All those in favor of ratifying the contract with the superintendent? Aye. None opposed? The motion passes. And with that, I would like to invite our incoming superintendent, Dr. Christian Rubalcaba, to the stand to deliver some remarks.
Wow, I'm absolutely excited. So Board of Trustees, Cabinet, Dr. Baker, and community, I am super thrilled to be part of the change process in this transition. I couldn't be more thankful for the support and the guidance that I will be receiving from Dr. Baker. We're going to ensure that this is not only seamless, but just kind of organic and normal, right? So that the kids continue to grow and learn. I'm just super excited to be here. Behind me, you can see plainly a lot of my supporters. And they're here because we've together come to support our students back in San Mateo. And I'm just so thrilled that I get to come here and meet the children of Redwood City. So I'm going to kind of talk to every stakeholder group because I think I have a message that's kind of a little bit different for each one. For our students of Redwood City, I cannot wait. If you're listening at this board meeting or if you're going to listen to it, when the YouTube video comes up, I can't wait to get into your classrooms from kinder all the way through 8th grade, TK all the way through 8th grade. I can't wait to see you at recess, at lunch. I know and I've heard so many amazing things through your board members about just how brilliant and beautiful you each all are. And I'm just, I can't wait to get in there and get to know each of you by name. To our teachers, you are the lifeblood of our schools. And I cannot wait to get into your classrooms as well, meet you all in person, in small groups, one-on-one, and forge those wonderful relationships with each and every one of you, because you guide our children every single day. And I know, having been a teacher myself, the hard, passionate work that it takes to plan a lesson, to execute, to go back, to make it better, right, the next day. And it takes a lot of heart and a lot of passion. And so I'm super thankful for all of what you've done, right, for the children of Redwood City School District. To our classified members, and I met already Andrea, you are often do a lot of thankless work, right? And I want to get to know you and meet you and get to know you as well by name. My father was a janitor when I was growing up. And so I treat, our janitors, our servicemen and women, our bus drivers, no different than I treat the leaders that you see behind me. I treat them with dignity and with love and respect because we all work together to serve our kids. To our families, I, again, cannot wait to get out there, PTA meetings, events, social events, meet and greets with Dr. Rubalcaba. I'm here to forge relationships with all of you as the families of Redwood City School District, because together, right, we're going to make this an amazing transition. We're going to work together to take Redwood City into the future, and it's going to take a village, right? Ahora voy a decir unas palabras en español para mis familias latinas hispanohablantes, porque yo sé que estamos pasando por un tiempo muy difícil en este país. Y quiero darle las gracias. Tengo un grupo que vinieron aquí a apoyarme, pero también para darle un mensaje con su presencia. Son Fe en Acción, si pueden levantar su mano, Fe en Acción. Fe en Acción son miembros del condado de San Mateo que están aquí para apoyar a nuestras familias hispanohablantes. Porque ellos se merecen voz, ellos se merecen un lugar en la mesa donde las decisiones se toman. Y este equipo, y sé que también funcionan aquí en Redwood City, so vamos a crear esas relaciones, esas fuentes de comunicación para continuar ese servicio a nuestras familias hispanohablantes. Ustedes se merecen estar aquí y yo, el doctor Rubalcaba, voy a apoyarles día tras día, hora tras hora, porque aquí estoy para ustedes y para apoyarles diario. Por favor, continúen trayendo a sus hijos a la escuela, porque eso es lo más importante que pueden hacer hoy. Y estoy entusiasmado de conocerlos a todos. Soy doctor Rubalcaba y estoy, muy feliz de estar aquí y ser su superintendente en el siguiente año escolar. Thank you, everyone.
I'd like to invite Dr. Baker, our retiring superintendent, to make some remarks as well.
So I'm going to read this so I don't forget it. Every time I go off cue, as Jorge tells me, don't do that, you left something. All right. Welcome, Kristen, to the Redwood City School District. This is truly a special district, and it has been my professional home for my entire career. As you know, I started as a kindergarten teacher and took a step in that journey, and with this community, it means a great deal to see the district move forward with such a thoughtful leadership. As you join the district, you'll quickly see what makes Redwood City School District quite unique. We have an incredibly engaged and supportive parent community that deeply cares about their children and their schools. Our teachers are veteran, skilled, and deeply committed to their craft. Our staff and our administrators work tirelessly every day to support the students and their families throughout all their needs. We do a lot with very little, but we always have each other. We roll up our sleeves for our students, our families, and our neighborhoods. That sense of teamwork, heart, and shared responsibilities is what carries this district forward. Redwood City School District is a diverse community, and that diversity is one of the greatest strengths of this district. I know you value listening, partnership, and being present, and that will matter here. This district will support you, challenge you, and stand beside you. You are stepping into a community that cares deeply and will make all the difference. I also want to thank the Board of Trustees. You truly listened to the community. You asked what people wanted in their next superintendent, and you took that seriously. That matters, and the community noticed. Congratulations on stepping into this position. We'll be seeing a lot of each other. So we'll make this transition really easy. Thank you.
And with that, we will now be moving to our discussion items. So for discussion, we've got a big batch of first readings on the docket. And by the way, if you are here to discuss policy, please stay. If you're here to high five our new superintendent, it would not be rude to excuse yourself. Yeah. Policy is really exciting, folks.
We're trying to.
All right. We'll take a moment to let the room.
Take a bit.
Yeah. A 100-second recess. Less glamorous, but also very important. We are going to go top policies now. For discussion, we've got a big batch of first readings on the docket. To give a quick primer to what's going on here, the way that the district's policy is formally says that we have a policy committee. Thank you, policy committee. It puts in a huge amount of work. Thank you, David, Jennifer, especially Wendy, who captains a bunch of this work. We get updates from the California School Board Association, which we call CSBA, that represent best practice in a district being fully compliant with all the myriad laws and regulations to which we are beholden. For a lot of them, we don't have a whole lot of choice about the language to include, but in some cases we do. Wendy and team have thoughtfully come up with an annotation system that lets us focus not on just the red lines or changes from existing policy, but highlights explicitly those areas where Redwood City School District has made a meaningful choice, differing from the exact language given to us by CSBA. That way we don't spend a lot of time debating things that can't really be any other way. We super appreciate this innovation. All policies go through a first reading, where the proposed changes emerge from the policy committee to be discussed as a whole board for the first time. Policy committee then takes the board's feedback and, as needed, amends the policies to come back for a second reading in a later meeting. This means that the second readings are usually in the consent section, where we automatically approve them since they already have our input. It's after the second reading that when a policy is approved, that the policy becomes official. So the path is policy committee, then the first reading is a discussion, and then second reading is consent, and then it's official. If you would like to see a policy changed, amended, added, whatever, a good first protocol would be for you to send a note with any context you can provide to policy committee. Naturally, you can also make a public comment, and policy committee may decide to take it up. So with that, who wants to captain going through these? Because normally it would be like Wendy who would take point. Right. So should we have somebody from policy committee take point on these? Okay, so the first one is going to be bylaw 9324, minutes and recordings. I'm opening up the floor for discussion on this policy item.
And I'll make a meta point. I don't think we need to have someone shepherd us through it unless we have
Okay.
specific questions. We can just sort of direct it back there.
Thank you, Mike.
I did want to say that I appreciated the change that I don't know if it was staff that initiated or the policy committee to just automatically exclude student directory information from the minutes. That made a lot of sense to me. Yeah, David put that in.
Good job,
So-
David.
Team effort.
Yeah, so that was a good one. Otherwise, I think and I noticed that you actually took to heart the policy now around announcing the meeting being recorded at the beginning. So that's something we'll want to remember to keep it in there. But otherwise, looks good to me.
One other point, just on that specific piece, we did actually confirm with legal that there was no requirement of the existing language. So I think we're all on the same page of let's not include if we don't have to.
Cool. Any other comments? Look good about taking a pause. Okay, moving on to the next one. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 1330, use of school facilities. Yep. Just so folks in the public know that I was concerned whether or not this change would make it more difficult for the community to use our facilities. And the answer is no. It's just restating the Civic Center Act authority that allows staff to approve facility use. So, yep. Any other comments or? Okay. All right. Any other comments on that one? Going. Done. All right, next one. We have Board Policy 3510, Green School Operations. Board members have thoughts on this one? I had some concerns that this was going to create a whole bunch of additional paperwork, overhead, regulatory friction. And the answer is basically no, this is guidance, not a mandate. And this is mostly encapsulating things that we are already doing. So this does not actually represent in and of itself an immediately actionable course correction. So, cool. Any other thoughts, comments? 3, 2, 1. All right. Moving on to Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 3511, Energy and Water Management.
And I think you might have had the same question as well around when we have these policies that have like a regular report thing, who's somehow we should be figuring out when those should come in. I don't think we need a dedicated item just to do these kind of reports. Like this one would probably make sense for it to show up on like a facilities update. They could do, from the facilities team, if they do a 3-year update, could just include the report in there. But somehow we should be tracking these. And I don't know if that was going back to the policy committee to make sure that got there or how that was happening.
We're speaking the same language, which is great. One of the things that Wendy and Jolene have been great about is keeping a separate. We have there's spreadsheets. I think totally, and we talked about the same issue of like, there's a lot of requirements. What we don't want to do is overburden the district with like reporting on everything all the time.
Yeah.
So step one, I think where we're at is we're cataloging whenever these things pop up. We have a section of like, okay, we know that this is something that we have to check on and when. I think once we get through, we're obviously going through a bunch of policies right now. The end goal is we will have that list. And I think the goal is really to find the right way to streamline it. So it's not, there's going to be things where the answer is there's no update because things are working fine. And so we got to just figure out the way to do that quickly and efficiently rather than doing like, let's not make presentations when we don't need to.
Right. The update might be 10 seconds of like, we're required by board policy such and such to do an update. And the update is there's nothing to say. I'll see you in 3 years on this topic. Right. So it doesn't necessarily need to be like a 45-minute lunch spiel. My main concern was just to make sure that we track these things. And so my suggestion for this was we already published the governance calendar for the school year. Right. And that we basically could tack on a footer to that to mention, oh, and by the way, we're going to just bullet point. We're going to need to have the following 3 reports sometime in the 26-27 school year, and we'll need the following 5 reports sometime in the 27-28 school year. They don't need to be scheduled, just like heads up, they're coming up, and that way we don't forget them. And whoops, I guess we agreed we would report out on this, and then we never do. Just.
We also, to that point, and also some of the policies say they have to be revisited at a certain time point, and
Yep.
I wasn't sure how we were tracking that. I think Wendy was saying there was a tool, or I can't remember. This is, I need to recall and get back to Wendy, but I thought we had some kind of tracking tool that was keeping us.
I'm not familiar with such
There's
a
a tool that comes from Gamut
Ooh.
every 3 months that indicates thank you.
Knowing-
That indicates, these policies need to come up to date or need to be
Okay, it
reviewed.
only covers policies, not the reporting.
Right.
portion.
Right.
Okay.
So I mean, it could be as simple as just a very simple Google sheet, right? That says like when
I think
right.
that's what,
That's the
that
tool.
was the, yeah.
That's the tool. Okay.
So I think that's the concept. It's still in process, but we're all trying to work toward
Sweet.
that. Yeah.
Okay. When can we expect an update on the process?
We have not discussed it as policy committee. Off the
Okay.
top of my head, though, I do think, March is going to be a big time for policy updates. And
Yep.
so it's probably not going to make sense to come up with anything before then because we're going to have to revisit those. So I think that's the next milestone to check in on what the process is.
All right. So after March is what I heard. All right. So
Should we have a working document now as we're going through all of these policies to start adding?
Oh, we do. Yeah, that's in the.
That's our spreadsheet, but the actual reporting. Like with the outcome, like in this case, right, we need to have like every 3 years a report on water management. Like we don't have that running list. do we?
Of like what we've actually done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, slow. Yes, I think you were right that Wendy mentioned that there is some internal tracking on this,
Yeah.
but I can't remember exactly.
Follow you guys, but since we're going through it now, we might as well catch them now and just start the list going.
agreed. Okay, so I will remand that to policy committee and expect to hear back sometime in April-ish. All right, I'll add a tickler. So policy committee, remember that. Okay, great. Any other comments on this item in particular on 3511 on water? Hearing none, we're going to move on to 3511.1, integrated waste management. Anyone have any thoughts on integrated waste management?
Looks good, including organic waste makes sense as part of it. And I think it's already current practice throughout the county. So
Sounds good. Thank you. Any other comment? Nope. Okay, so moving on, board policy 3514, environmental safety.
yeah, the only thing I was just wondering about was whether it says that you have to operate basically HVAC during business hours, but it was clarified that because I wasn't sure if like temperate conditions, like if it's nice out, you don't have to run it.
Climate
You
best by
don't have
government
to.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to. So
Good.
that was
Okay.
good. I tried to read it from the, I said, oh, you can follow the law exemptions and stuff, but it still wasn't clear. But it sounds like it's totally
Mandated that no matter what the weather, we
I
have
was
to run the
I
AC
was
on
just
full
imagining,
blast.
like,
God,
oh my
no.
God. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be that one.
Okay, good. And just for any members of the public, if at any point it seems like a policy is madness and doesn't make sense, like come raise it. Like we're generally trying to do reasonable things here. Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. Okay. Next up we have, are we on 3515, campus security? Yep. Okay. Thoughts on this one? I had a couple, but want to let other people go too. Okay. My main comment was like the policy as written seemed fine, but also didn't get into any of the technologies that have come up in policy discussions in other arenas. So things like the use of face trackers, gate trackers, gunshot detection, automated license plate readers. Like people have strong feelings about a bunch of these kinds of things. And the policy as written doesn't really cover any of that, like whether we're okay with doing those things or not okay with doing those things. And so I don't have any objection to the policy as written, but it also feels in some ways incomplete. Like we haven't given the district full guidance on what is our take on some of these technologies. And it may need, it may merit some discussion. You know, I know that there's a lot of communities that have had strong feelings on both sides about things like license plate readers, flock and the like. Thoughts? Is that like, is it a fair thing to have a discussion about? Or not saying we need to have an extended discussion tonight, but just feels like maybe there's another layer of the onion to get into here.
I think my general view to policy is not to over prescribe, but really to just set the general tone of what we're trying to achieve. And speaking at least for myself, like I just don't know the ins and outs of all the things that are happening that the districts and the district and the schools are doing. So I'm a little bit wary of putting in too much proactively, but I'm very open. I think you're asking this at the beginning, like when an issue arises that we need to address in policy, like happy to visit. Like I'd love to know when we have to make those decisions, but I don't know if we need to get too ahead and be over prescriptive in the first instance.
That's fine, but then I want it to be clear to staff that the board is explicitly not setting a direction implicitly in this, that we are either for or against some of these more specific technologies. And if the district did want to countenance supporting or rejecting the use of license plate readers or face detection software or gate recognition software, that would need to be something that the board would want to discuss. So the policy is written as not saying, yes, let's do that. It's not saying, no, we can never do that. It's saying we're going to need a discussion about those things. Is that fair?
That's how I intended.
Great. So I want to make sure that
For
that
me, I don't know.
intent, because sometimes I hear things like, well, the board really wanted to do X, and it's like, no, that was wrong. So just like, I want to make sure that the record is clear about the board's intent here is to provide this level of direction. And there's a lot of things that aren't covered, and those are things that are future conversations for the board. Cool. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on 3515? No. Okay, next one is drones. I had a lot of thoughts on this one. Other people have thoughts on drones?
I do think that this one is a little bit unclear on how broad it's trying to reach. I think you had a bunch of questions in there as well. I know that this was just CSBA's language, and so what I wanted to ask the policy committee is, when they provide an update, do they provide a vehicle for us to be able to ask them questions about it? Because it's not clear, this one is not clear if it is trying to regulate airspace or not, which is I think that's probably an overreach for the policy. And so I just was wondering, what was their perspective? How were they interpreting it when they read it? And try and use the CSBA one instead of trying to use our own like legal hours or something like. But to me, it feels like it needs a little bit more guidance on what was happening there.
I don't know if there's a specific vehicle provided typically. That said, because we've had because I've raised concerns in the past with some policy samples and federal compliance issues. I know Catherine Rivera and Wendy are very familiar with some of the folks at CSBA with questions that may or may not be. It's not a formal vehicle, but if we have specific questions to follow up on, like I think the policy committee is happy to take those up.
Yeah.
So I do know in Assembly, which is a platform that uses the board policies and ARs. If you have any questions, you can actually submit it through that same platform to one of their CSBA attorneys, and then they could get back to
Yeah, it might be nice because like it would be pretty clear that, the policy could cover what happens on district grounds, what district staff and students do, what district sponsored events are allowed to do, but like it's the part where it's not totally clear about like if something just comes over and they're not on the land, like how does it regulate? So it might be nice to get some clarity on what they were thinking about that, how that was in, and whether the language really is an overreach or not. But that's all.
Sorry, just for my own understanding, would this get pulled back and re-brought up for a first reading then?
Yeah. So some of my thoughts on this, I'm an FAA licensed commercial pilot. I'm also separately a Part 107 commercial drone pilot, RPIC, and I cannot support the way that this is written. It includes an implicit jurisdiction of the airspace over the school, which is the FAA has unique jurisdiction over the navigable airspace of the United States, and that's been shot down in case law like time and time again. It also appears to make it incredibly difficult if like a STEM teacher wanted to take a toy plastic drone and just like have it hover for a moment in a classroom to show what was possible. It would create an enormous administrative burden over just doing a simple harmless demo flight like that with an ultralight drone. The FAA considers drones under 0.55 pounds to be extremely unlikely to harm people, and therefore the regulations, it's actually not regulated under Part 107. The policy as written doesn't talk about weight limits at all, which means that like a full commercial drone license would be needed for any size and weight of aircraft, which is kind of ridiculous, right? And I think it would prohibit a lot of the kinds of fun STEM explorations that we do want to support. So there's a number of different parts of this policy that I'm not supportive of.
It does actually, it says it's less than 55 pounds. So I don't know if that changes.
No, it does not, because Part 107 covers from 0.55 pounds to 55 pounds.
Okay.
And so explicitly below
I see
0.55
what you're
pounds, the FAA says like you're not going to mess anything up. And more than 55 pounds says like you actually need a Part 333 waiver or Section 333 waiver, because like that's like big stuff, right? So yeah, I mean, I would not support the policy as written. So I want to remand this to policy committee. That's my take.
I think Jen and I hear the questions. Yeah, we can consider it through the policy. I think that's fine to bring it back. It seems like there are specific questions. I don't know if I have the expertise, to be honest. Perhaps the SBA does, but I do wonder if there are specific issues that you see with the policy that you do want to be addressed, aside from the broad question of whether or not there's
Probably the two really big ones for me are jurisdictional control, right? So the district has absolute jurisdiction over the interior airspace that exists in the district. So like what happens in a building, 100% the district's jurisdiction. The moment that you talk about like overflight of a school, it's the FAA's jurisdiction. Like the district doesn't own the airspace. The district can't regulate and litigate what happens in the airspace. You can litigate a takeoff, you can litigate a landing, you can litigate what kind of operation. So if the remote pilot in command is sitting on school grounds, like that's subject to school jurisdiction. All those things are subject to school jurisdiction, but the school district cannot have jurisdiction over the airspace. So that's like serious issue one, and that will get shot down in court, right? Because there's long string of case law that show that that's really clear. So I don't want us to be embracing policies that have been shown unlawful by case law. Right. And I think that the other one is just making it really clear that for very light drones that are less than 0.55 pounds, which are FAA Category 1 drones, especially if they have prop guards, that we are not trying to constrain STEM teachers from showing their kids what's possible, right? Because these are not drones that are going to harm people. They're not drones that are going to harm property. And having burdensome administrative paperwork that they have to fill out or requiring the STEM teacher to get their Part 107 license seems a little absurd to me for casual kind of toy drone flights like that. And I don't want to burden the teachers in the district with that when it's like it doesn't actually represent potential meaningful harm.
Okay, I think so. Part one is like legal question. In your view, there'd be no reason at all to cover airspace.
Yep, can't.
Period. So let's get that.
That's out.
The second piece is ultimately a value and policy question of to what extent do schools and teachers and the district and the board feel it's appropriate to have kind of any de minimis exception for these things. Again, I don't have the expertise on that. I think that's something for sure that the policy committee wants. Like, I would love to get the practitioners' input. But I don't know if the board has other input as well before going in.
No, for me, it was just the on or over. So that was the question for CSBA. Like, what did they mean by when they were saying over, as opposed to takeoff, landing, or operating from district property? And for the airspace one, I think, should it be, instead of the over part, would it be like a response protocol for overflight? So that, we have like a policy in place of like, if you're getting harassed by a drone, like what is the response protocol for that to be able to report it or something like that? If it's not something that we can actually regulate, we can still report it to, I don't know, the FAA or whatever.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. I would, we'd have to get the legal opinion, but that's why I was saying maybe we can ask CSBA some of these questions, like what were they intending? How are they seeing this thing in practice?
Okay. Sorry to create a kind of brouhaha there.
No, policy is important. I don't know, that gives me, I don't know, Jen, if you have other thoughts.
I think just for clarity that we have the paragraph about saying the superintendent or designee may grant permission for those use cases that you said. Bless you. You're trying to frame it that we want to encourage or allow it without having the permission, or
that I think it's up to us to decide what sort of interior flights over which we have jurisdiction are sufficiently safe that there really shouldn't be burden in terms of needing permission, needing to go and have insurance, $1 million of crash insurance coverage, Part 107 licensure. But for a meaningfully sized drone, like one that is regulated under Part 107, somewhere between 0.55 pounds and 55 pounds, like, yeah, totally like reasonable to, like, if you want a 30-pound drone flying around your multi-purpose room over a bunch of children, like, yeah, you want to have insurance for that, right? And so like that part makes sense, right? But it's just like trying to, but that's actually that's sort of an absurd situation because I don't think anyone would actually propose flying a 30-pound drone inside a multi-purpose room over a bunch of children. I think that the reality of where the surface area contact is likely to be between the drones and between drones and the district is going to be short, casual flights with ultralight drones, less than 0.55 pounds, with prop guards that are extremely unlikely to injure any children. Right. And they're fun. They're engaging. It's something that's like, it's a wonderful tool in a STEM classroom to be able to go and use these drones. And so I don't want any friction for teachers who want to engage their kids in this way where there's no meaningful risk.
I think
I've said my piece.
I understand the concept. I think it'll be good to hear. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I truly, like, not questioning. I don't know whether or not there are rationales for some sort of protocol in place. But let's get the information.
Cool. Thank you. All right. And with that, moving on to 3515.7, firearms on school grounds. Any comments? Hearing none. Moving on to 3523, electronic signatures. Any comments? We're in the 21st century. Very good. Okay. Next one, 3580, district records. I had some minor comments on this.
And I'll just note that it had, I mean, we just approved last week the student records one that had the same reporting requirement for it. And I can't remember, that's typical that we'll repeat language across policies. It's probably nicer just because it's there. You don't have to think about it as opposed to cross-referencing. But this is the cyber attack reporting language that's in it.
From the past.
No.
Another policy.
The district records and the student records has the same reporting requirement for it.
Yeah.
So it's like literally the same language in it.
My suggestion on this was to consider including regularly making backups of district records and then also validating that those backups do indeed work as effective insurance against a ransomware attack. Right, because this is not an academic kind of theoretical concern. It's pretty regular that organizations get attacked, their data gets wiped. And if they don't have a rigorous disaster recovery strategy in place with not just regular backups, but have actually tested those backups, as often as not, folks thought they were backing up stuff. The emergency happens. They go to recover from the backups. They actually haven't practiced a recovery in years. And whoops, actually almost none of the data is there, right? And now you're in really serious trouble because you've lost those records. I think this is it's a material concern. So just I want to make sure that we are, as a board, giving direction to the district that it's something that we're hoping the district can pretty regularly do, is not just backup data, but also be validating those backups with some frequency. The hope is not to have this be overly burdensome, but I think it's important that we know that our backups work.
Rick, how often is the data backed up when it comes to student records and other records within the district? Do you know?
Full backup weekly. We have set backups for our servers, but no for data. The data is the student records is on the Google Drive, but there is no incremental backup. We're talking about records, the records that we digitalize.
Right, those records that are digitalized and those records that move on up from us to the high school district. And then for any student back 20, 30, 40 years that comes back and wants X record. Right, from my understanding at this point in time, it's we make a copy of it from the digit one, and give it to them. But other than that, we don't.
I did an extra backup on a separate hard drive. So we have hard drive, the data in the Google Drive, and then the physical. We still have it.
And how often do we validate those backups?
What do you mean validation? What's the protocol of the validation?
There's a couple different ways to do it, but just you could have any process of just picking a particular file and trying to restore it and seeing if it comes back corrupted or not. So just doing point in time checks. There's a couple different ways to go and validate a backup. Successful restoration.
The involvement department who manage the records when there's a request, they are in charge of providing it. So they're the ones that review the data and they provide it to the parent who needs it.
This policy is also, this is about district records, not student records, because the district has lots of data that it stores, from payroll to like HR reports, whatever. And it's just, I think it's important that we make sure that the district isn't going to be victim to a ransomware attack where some hacker breaks in via 0-day, deletes all of our data, and then we're just dead in the water because we have no idea like what our payroll is. We have no idea what our HR file is.
Budget, everything.
We have no idea what our budget is.
Yeah, and a lot of those records are not stored on-prem, right? So they're in a different system in the cloud now, especially our financial records. And this policy also talks about two records, right? Paper records and electronic records, right? So we have to differentiate that in here as well. Although it makes reference to electronic records are electronically stored. But our student information and our financial records are now cloud-based, where we're not making backups of those on any frequency because they are backed up by our SLAs with those entities with the ERP.
Are they configured on the cloud such that they cannot be deleted remotely?
Deleted remotely by us or by
A hacker posing as you, yes. If I were to compromise your account, could I direct Google to delete all of the district's records from Google's servers?
Not for those two systems.
Okay.
If there was files stored in a Google Drive account here, it could.
Yeah. So if they're, so I don't want to get too into the weeds with like, this is not meant to be a live audit of the IT systems, but rather we're trying to set policy. And the hope here is that to give policy guidance to the district that all of our critical records, whether they're student records or district records, that we have a backup of them that is a separate copy or it's preserved in such a way that it cannot be deleted, and that we validate that those attestations are correct, so that not even if, when we get hacked and somebody tries to, hold us up for ransom, that even if they go ahead and as the super user admin for the whole district, they try their best to wipe everything, that we are not dead in the water, that we're able to recover. Yeah. Awesome. Policy team, is there a way that we should encapsulate that request in this policy and other policies? Is this the right discussion to be having about this item? I'm not trying to derail things.
I think this is the right forum to discuss. This seems like the right policy to capture what it is exactly we want to confirm.
Okay.
I don't have sample language, but it sounds like this, sounds like we're proposing some language that is relatively broad enough to ensure that in the worst case scenario, we have some semblance of some backup that is separate from the traditional systems that we're using to ensure that we're not starting from zero if we lose all the data.
A disaster recovery plan of sorts, right?
So from a policy language perspective, we can figure out what that looks like.
Great.
But the second part is, I think what I heard is this is not overly burdensome.
Yeah.
Conceptually for the district to adhere to. Yeah, I think we can take it back.
Okay.
It would be interesting to see what other districts are doing with this policy because we're all using the cloud. We're all using electronics. I have not heard any of my colleagues talk about this in the sense at this point in time.
Would we want to detail this out in the AR then also, or?
Definitely. Because
Doesn't go to
the
that-
AR
it doesn't go to that detail now.
Because the ARs gives you the specifics, what you need to do.
So best practice in industry is to do a full disaster recovery trial, right? But once a year. And go in and do a full backup restore and validate that your backups come back as you thought and that they're working as intended. Is that appropriate for a school district? I don't know. But just with some cadence to make sure that we are backing up all of our data. We're not at risk of an attacker. And if an attacker did come in and delete everything they possibly could as a super user in the district, that we wouldn't be dead in the water.
Rick, I wonder what SMIGSIG would say in regard to this. Because we would go directly to them if this were to take place. SMIGSIG is the San Mateo Insurance Group, which we are definitely one of their clients.
Okay. All right. So we might get some. There might be an exploration from policy committee in combination with IT to see what kind of language might make sense here. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Any other comments by the board? Okay. Next up is 7150 site selection and development. Comments here? Hearing none. Jen, your mic's on. Next up is 7210 facilities financing. Any comments here? Hearing none. All right. Good job, everyone. That was all of our policies to go and review. And thank you again to Policy Committee. I know that this stuff is really involved. Thank you for all your work preparing this and for the vigorous discussion on the policies. So, cool. All right. And with that, we are now on to the consent items. As a reminder to the public, these are things that we approve all in one go that are generally presumed to not need detailed discussion. Does anyone want to move that we approve the consent items?
So
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Great. Okay, and we have nothing left in our action item section because 1 and 2 were pulled and we joyously took care of number 3 already at the top of the meeting with a lot of flowers. Okay, and that brings us to 13, board and superintendent reports. Yeah.
Yeah, I attended the, along with President Weekly, many staff members, principals, and community members, the Redwood City School District Strategic Resource Alignment Advisory Committee meeting number 4, which was held last night. Dr. Baker presented pretty much the spreadsheet that we saw in our study session with a little bit more detail in there about what all the how those things were going to kind of take shape. To the committee, kind of ran through the details. Rick was there presenting through all the details, and then went back and got the committee's feedback about which ones they were going to recommend to the superintendent, which ones they wanted to recommend with changes. I'll let the superintendent digest that information and he'll bring it back to the board sometime in February, I think, right? February 4th for our approval.
Anyone else?
I did a Roy Cloud visit the other week, which was great. Already is happening, so that was didn't get to see all of the full instruction, but still got to see around the campus and drop in a couple classrooms, which is great. A few things that I noted that I thought were super helpful. One was I asked about just the change. Obviously, we've made changes to the iReady, or the district has made changes to the timing and frequency of iReady administration. And at least from admin, it sounds like there's a positive change that allows to get that midpoint data of allowing us to figure out, like, what are things that we can focus on, and reducing some of the testing toward the end of the year. So that was good. Another interesting thing that I heard, which is great, was that there's proactive collaboration, at least between Bright Cloud and I think Sequoia on that transition between 8th grade, 9th grade. I think it's called the ELA articulation, which is just a great idea. Like, we're obviously trying to prepare our students for high school, so it's great to hear that they're doing that. I don't know if there's district-wide stuff, but it's just great to hear that that is happening in general. We're trying to work together to make that a seamless transition. The one thing that did come up as a question, and I feel like it's maybe it's a very technical issue, but one of the classrooms I got to drop in on, there was I think a brand new student that day, and I guess it seems like technologically there might be an issue or lag time between setting up their accounts the first day. So I think the student had to share Chromebook with their neighbor is not super ideal. It sounds like, and frankly, what I witnessed sounded like it was an opportunity to get to know your neighbor, but just I don't know if there's further explanation. It would be great if, new students coming in the middle of the year could just be up and running as quickly as possible, but just a flag that was something that popped up.
No update for me.
Cecilia?
I attended the Redwood City Together along with Dr. Baker. And I was actually trying to look up through my notes. I know they're over their I just went blank. Their fundraising. So that was really great. Obviously, Redwood City Together is an organization that works with Redwood City and North Fair Oaks. Talked about all the events that they've done, the Promotores, which is a group of youth that helps out to provide resources to our community.
Nice.
Do you remember? I don't remember what else. I mean, there's definitely a lot of information. We also did breakout sessions where you got to choose what you wanted to do. And one of the things that I was very interested in was they talked about their newsletter and reaching out more than like 3,000 residents. But I was just wondering, how many more can you get to rather than just making a beautiful newsletter? How are you going to reach out more people so that they know what resources they're providing? So
Yes.
we kind of brainstorm about that. And again, there was different breakout sessions. And then maybe Dr. Baker could add a little bit more information to that.
Sweet. Thank you so much. I also was at that meeting. I think that's going to be the last of the sequence and hopefully the last of that flavor for a while, because the game plan is that this is going to be the new normal going forward. But that was good. I had coffee at Phil's downtown this morning with Amy Koo from the Sequoia board, and it was a wonderful meeting. It was just great to get to connect with some of my peers there. So they have a public dashboard called Schoolytics to show how actually Redwood City School District graduates are doing in the Sequoia district, and you can slice and dice that data lots of different ways. That seemed pretty neat. I didn't know about that prior to this morning's coffee. So I spent a little bit of time playing around in that Schoolytics dashboard. And apparently some of their feeder districts, or one of their feeder districts, obviously, have asked their data people to come and present to the feeder district about how that district's children are doing at Sequoia. This is something that they would be happy to do, apparently, for Redwood City School District. We just need to ask if that is data that we are interested in seeing. That seemed interesting. So I think picking maybe a meeting day when we don't have 4 or 5 hours of other things piled up for that day could be interesting to go and learn a little bit about the onward journey, and also ways that we could better improve the articulation meetings, for instance, to have that smooth handoff. We talked a little bit about school district unification. And I think the conclusion for now is that the practicalities of that are a bit out of reach. That even though it kind of pencils out that in the most ideal of all possible worlds, it would probably make good sense for us to be a unified district, it's probably not going to happen. And so what can we do given that? Can we act like a virtually unified district and kind of come together as one team to make these story arcs, these narratives about children joining us in TK and kinder all the way through high school, right? And what are some things that we can do to invest in those pathways and helping to make sure that those pathways are smooth? And articulation meetings is a part of that, but there's a couple other parts as well. There may be even some options that could be explored between the districts, like splitting a part-time teacher for specialty classes. We talked about whole grade acceleration as a very cost-effective gate option. and building out pathways for English, math, and she actually brought up music. So we're thoughtful about student journeys. The music was a little interesting because like there aren't any intro to orchestra effectively classes. So you have to sort of show up at the district already proficient in an instrument. And if like you kind of missed that boat, then you can end up left behind, which is sort of interesting. So yeah, it was a very good meeting. Dr. Baker.
I've been to several of the items that were just mentioned, but the other piece, Cecilia, that we heard about was that regarding the cancer center that's being built, was at
Oh, yeah.
Stanford over on Broadway. Is it Broadway? I think it's Broadway as you move further down. They talked about this cancer research center where it's research number one, and the horrible to say, but these new types of cancers that are coming forward and the research on how to help those patients who get that type of cancer, where the researchers will be there, the patients will be there in the hospital getting their treatments at the same time while the researchers are reacting to see how they are furthering themselves along to becoming better with the new drugs and so forth that the researchers are trying to come up with. It has not come to fruition at this point in time. They're thinking it's going to be number one, the research center, then a clinic, and then a hospital, all for cancer. And it's going to definitely, because it's in that area, the Fair Oaks area, wants to cater to that clientele plus others. So it's something I think that will probably be known to this area within the next few years, I would imagine. They're in the process now of doing different types of community meetings and gathering with community members to make them aware that this is going to be in place and how you can become involved in the near future. So that was a big piece that took a lot of the presentation. That after we did that group work, they spoke quite a bit. And one of the Lucy Wicks is she was one of our parents from one of our school sites, and she is the vice president of what's going on in that area. And she's the one that also helped me bring Stanford here during COVID, especially when I was worried about the counseling and everything, to get that off the ground. So it was great to see her and learn about her kids who are now in college and so forth, and see where she is in her career and their life at this point in time. And so it's interesting. It's really built up. I can remember years ago when that was nothing. Do you remember it down there? It was like,
Right? I don't know what of a company.
yeah, it was Ampex or something like that. It was all these like bungalows from what I remember or something. But now it's, my gosh, it's thriving with Stanford University. The Gardner Center is there part-time also. So, but it's new and it's coming, and with what's happening in the nation and research being stopped at certain places, it's definitely not in a halt moment here. So that's good to know. So I thought it was very interesting, and they said they would keep Redwood City Together apprised as it moves along, because now their next step is to they've been meeting with the city council to get all their ducks in a row so they can get everything they need to break ground and open it up. That was quite interesting, that portion. The rest of the meeting was interesting also, but that was very fascinating to learn what's happening.
Screw cancer. I'm glad that we've got some awesome research teams standing up here.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we're on to information. Rick, I'm going to try and explain this, and you can yell at me if I got it wrong. So a quick primer on this one. A reasonable question is, what does the district do with its cash on hand? The answer is that the county manages the cash for us. For better, for worse, when nobody's trading stocks or doing anything very exotic with the money. So right now we're earning a bit shy of 4%, kind of what you would expect from a savings account. A lot of CDs and treasury notes in there. It's not clear that we have a lot of options to do more exciting things with the cash on hand, or that that would be a particularly good idea. We wouldn't want to miss payroll because the market was having a bad day, like this week. Rick, did I get that about right? Thank you. Anything else want to say on this item? Not with district funds. Yeah. Okay. All right. Correspondence. I have a really sad one. I'm just going to put this out there. My wife's very good friend and one of her fellow actors from South Bay Musical Theater was killed in Gilroy, crossing the street right after dropping her daughter off at elementary school, along with her husband. The two of them were together, just got done dropping their child off at elementary school, and a truck did not stop, and they both now have passed, and they've orphaned their daughter. So twins, thank you. Thank you for that. So yeah, so my wife acted on stage with her, and I think that was a bit of a reminder for us of how close to home safe routes to school really is. That my two boys cross Jefferson every morning and every afternoon coming home from school, and stuff like this scares the crap out of me. So just if there are things that we can do to further emphasize and accelerate safe routes to school to make sure that things like that don't happen in this community, and that we do everything we can to encourage and make it safe and desirable for children to walk to school, to bike to school, to scooter to school, and to not have to drive to school, and to have those sidewalks be and crosswalks be properly protected, I think it would be great. So just wanted to share that. All right. Other business. Nope. Okay. And just a note for the public, the schedule of agenda items is there. People often miss that. But if you want to know what's the board going to talk about when, that's a great resource. Look at the PDF that's attached to item 16 right there. Okay, that brings us to reflection. How'd it go? Donald, speak at once. Thumbs up. Good meeting. Fun to high five the new superintendent.
I think today's maybe a bit of an exception, but I do think we need to be consistent with time limits of the speakers when they come up. It's hard to make exceptions, and I know this was a tough because I loved all the things that were said, but it begs the question of when do we make them?
Yeah. Yep. That's very good feedback. I will. 3 minutes. Appreciate that. Any other feedback?
No, otherwise I thought it was good discussion. It was a lot of fun to welcome Dr. Rubalcaba in. So that was a fun event. And yeah, I mean, I think, there's some good discussion in the policy. So I think we sent our policy committee to work. So that's good.
Thank you, policy committee. We appreciate you. Oh boy.
I mean, I thought it was a good meeting too. I did think of the time.
Yeah.
Because obviously we have to be fair with
Yeah,
everybody.
we gotta be fair.
Yeah.
So
And again, as far as the discussion goes with the board policies, I thought it was great. It's just unfortunate that Wendy's not here, but you guys will be able to give her the information. But yeah, thank you.
cool. Duly noted. No matter how heartfelt or sweet the remarks are, I gotta cut people off at 3 minutes. So I gotta learn to step up to that and wield that gavel a little bit more firmly. Okay. Evelyn, do we ever get any changes coming up? We good on the calendar?
No changes.
Sounds good. All right. I think that takes us to the end of our meeting. Would anyone like to move we adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes.